All right, welcome back. I assume you got your supplies, so let's move on to step 2. We're going to build the engine mount today. This is what's going to be responsible for holding your rocket engine to the inside of your rocket, so it doesn't just shoot right through the top of your rocket and leave your rocket sitting embarrassingly on the launch pad. First, you want to take your toilet paper roll and you want to cut it right up the middle. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight cut, just cut it. And since we're dealing with smaller rocket engines, I also cut about inch off of the end of the toilet paper tube, just so I don't have to roll so much. And then take your rocket engine, put it in your toilet paper roll and roll it up. Make it tight, but not so tight that you can't move the rocket engine in and out. It should be snug and comfortable, but not too snug. And then you want to cut off some excess. You want to leave about an inch of excess off the end of your rocket engine, but cut off everything after that. Roll it back up. Again, make sure it's snug, but you can move it because you want to be able to take your engine out of your engine mount when it's spent. I'm just going to even out the end here. Alright, so once you got your engine in there nice and comfortable, you can go ahead and glue this down. If you're using crazy glue like I am, you want to hold it for 30 seconds and then you can go ahead and let go. Now you can see my engine does move by me just tipping it back and forth. It's a little bit more loose than I would like, but it's not going to make a huge difference. The next step will make the huge difference. So you're going to need your paper clip and you want to straighten it all the way out. The easiest way I found to do this is just to put your thumb over the bent part and then just lift up with your middle finger on the paper clip. And just do that for all 3 folds. And just straighten it out the best you can, but you can take your needle nose pliers and on the flat part of your pliers you can clamp down on the paper clip and make it a little bit more straight. We're not going to be using the whole paper clip, so you only have to do maybe 3/4 of it. Alright, you can go ahead and take your engine out. So basically this paper clip is going to hold your engine into the engine mount. You're going to want to bend your paper clip over the tip of the engine, but you don't want it covering any of the white really. You can have it cover a little bit of the white, but you want it just sticking over the brown shell, if you will. But the first bend, you actually do want to bend it most of the way across because we're going to end up bending it back. So take the tip of the pliers and clamp down right on the edge here at that 90-degree angle. And then I kind of get off camera here, but what I do is I just bend the tip backwards, okay? And as you can see, I kind of made like a nose with a shape of a nose at the end of my paper clip. And that will give your fingers some play to actually bend that paper clip back and get your engine out. And if it takes you a few tries to get that down, just grab a box of paper clips and start practicing. All right, so the other end is actually going to keep your rocket from shooting all the way through your tube and out the top of your rocket when it's ignited. It's going to hold the rocket inside the rocket mount when it's ignited. So you want this part to be bent at 90 degrees, and instead of just come across the brown shell, you want it to come all the way across most of the diameter of the engine. And we'll end up poking it through the brown roll there that we made, but you don't want it poking through all the way through. You just want to poke it through one side and then have it end somewhere in the middle there. So we're going to cut that somewhere over the white part. And there you go. This little paper clip will act as our holding bar. Okay, so put your engine back into the engine mount, and then get the engine in there just where you want it. You want to leave some of the engine out of that roll so you can grab it with your fingers and pull it out. What I think of as a rule of thumb is push it in just till you can't see the green lettering or the lettering, whatever kind of engine you have. You can't see that lettering anymore, and that should be about where you want it. And then take the end of that paper clip, make sure it's up against the engine, and then press a little dent into the cardboard, and then mark a little dot where that indent is, and you're going to poke the other end of that paper clip into your engine mount. Like I said earlier, this is what's going to hold the back end of your engine into the engine mount. So put that through, and there you go. Nice and snug, it's not moving, which is good. Now we just need to glue down this bar. Be very generous here with the super glue. Pull that out so we don't accidentally glue down the engine to the engine mount. That wouldn't be good if we couldn't get it out. It'd make what we're doing completely irrelevant. Oh yeah, okay, so if you get super glue on your thumb, don't sweat it, okay? It's very annoying, it's uncomfortable, it sucks. But all you have to do is get some sandpaper and sand that right off. Don't go too far though, or you'll get your bone. Now you really want this bar to be secured very well, okay? The last thing you want after you mount this into your rocket is for that bar to break off. So really glue this down well. So after you have it super glued in place, really holster it down with some super glue or some hot glue, and don't just clump it on there. Put it down, lay it down, and then like spread it out, spread it thin, so it's not sticking far off of the tube itself, or that's just going to make your life harder here in the next few minutes. I do fast forward throughout this video sometimes when I'm doing tedious things that take a while, and I know that you know what you're doing, so if you see me moving really quick, it's me, it's not you. Alright, so that works, which is good. So we have our engine mounted to an engine mount. Now we need to be able to mount the engine mount to the actual rocket itself. To do that, we're going to cut out 2 rings from a piece of cardboard. Now this needs to be a sturdy piece of cardboard, okay? The cardboard I'm using is a thinner type, but it's really durable. It's actually, it was made with 2 layers of cardboard and then glued together or whatever, which is a really good kind to use. You can have cardboard that's really flimsy, like the cardboard you'll find with pop cans, like 12 packs. You don't want to use that for this. You want something really strong. something that won't bend very easily. And you can see when I press with my thumb, I'm bending it slightly. That's not a good thing, but like I'm not worried about it because I've tested this cardboard out and it holds better than any other cardboard I've ever used. Notice how diligent I'm being, all right? I'm taking my time to make this circle as perfect as I can, okay? You don't want any gaps between the cardboard ring and your cardboard tube, okay? If you have any gaps, hot gas will be able to get in there and it will destroy your engine mount. And it may cause your recovery system not to deploy, and thus your whole rocket crashing and burning. So take your time, trim little by little, and don't rush it. If you rush it and you mess up, start over and start on another ring. Once you got your ring to the perfect size where it can just barely slide through your tube, you can go ahead and start on a second one. And the easiest way to do this is just to trace the first one. And again, trim little by little and make that second one just perfect. It shouldn't get stuck in there, but it also shouldn't just fall through willy-nilly. The best rings I ever made, I could drop like a quarter down there and they would stay facing the same direction. It would just hover on the way down. You should be able to hear that ring slightly scrape up against the tubing, but not get stuck. And you'll see why here in a little bit. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you, this part really sucks. You need to make the ring an actual ring. So you're gonna have to cut out a circular hole in the middle of these. Do your best to find the center spot and cut out a center hole. You can do this by measuring the diameter of your ring, then finding the middle measurement of that diameter. Just divide by 2, it's easy. And then just do that for multiple sides. Take your engine mount tube and put it right directly over the center of that, and then you can trace it. It's really important that you center this the best you can. If it's off to one side, guess what? Your rocket's not going to fly straight. Of course, there's a little bit of room for error here, but not much, okay? So just do your best to take your time and really get this down correctly and do it right, okay? Now this is the part that sucks, cutting this out. Scissors are clunky and they're not made for such precision cutting, so you're going to see me use a couple different methods here. I'll use scissors to start off just to get my hole started, and then I switch over to a box cutter. And of course, this is at 2 times speed. Yeah, sandpaper works okay. It gives you a little bit more of a perfect circle, but it doesn't really cut away. It doesn't really make your hole much bigger. Box cutter works well, but here's the thing. You're going to see me use the Dremel here quite a bit. All right, Dremel will make your life so much easier. If you don't have one, you don't have to have it. That's why I didn't include it in the list, but it will make your life easier, I promise you. I'm using a sandpaper attachment there, and it makes your ring just look so much better and so much more even. And here I am just eyeballing it to see exactly which side has more cardboard to it, because if there's one side that has more cardboard than the other, then I know that I'm not centered. I need it even all the way around. But notice how I'm switching back and forth, testing to see if my engine mount fits in there, and if it doesn't, I'm figuring out what I have to trim to make it fit, meanwhile keeping an eye on making it center. And then it just snugly fits. Perfect. And guess what? Now you have to do the other one. Make your life easier. Use that first ring as a guide. Don't start back over by measuring out the second ring and with your ruler and tracing the engine mount. Don't do that. Just trace the first ring and the second ring. And then cut it out. Alright, so once you got them both cut out, put them on there, and you need to make them straight. Also put your engine in there too for stability. Now, just like cutting the rings out evenly was important, even more important is that these are secured to your engine mount tube as straight as possible. Okay? You have to make these straight. If it's crooked like this, guess what? It's gonna fly in one direction. It's not gonna be pretty. So make them straight, and then once you have them on straight, go ahead and glue them down. I always use super glue first because super glue, even if you do a little bit, can put your mind at ease because you know it's not gonna move, even if you have to put more glue on it. At least you know you can put it down for a second and it will be fine. Once you got all the sides of that glued down, go ahead and really secure this with some hot glue. Now you can be very generous with this, okay? And you don't have to smooth it out and make it look pretty, okay? Just get it in there generously. Of course, this is 2 times speed. All 4 sides. Now we do a test. We make sure this slides in there nice and neatly. You don't want it to fight you. You don't want too much resistance where you can't get it in very quickly. But you don't want it so loose that you have gaping gaps between your engine mount and your tube. It should be nice and perfectly snug. Trim if you must, okay? It shouldn't be too loose, otherwise you did something wrong. Alright. But before we actually mount it in there and secure it in there, we're going to attach our shock cord. This shock cord will make sure that our piston that is responsible for deploying our recovery system doesn't eject out into an oblivion. Okay, it stays with our actual rocket. And one end will be attached to our piston, like I said, and the other end will be attached here to our engine mount. You want it sticking out of the top of your main rocket tube about 6 to 8 inches. It is kind of an arbitrary number. Just make sure you have enough there to completely leave your rocket tube. And remember, this needs to be elastic. It needs to have some give to it, okay? If it's just a tight, string or yarn or, kite string or whatever, something that doesn't have any elasticity to it, it will snap and you will lose your parachutes and your piston, and you will soon find that's going to be a bad day. Take out the super glue. Be generous with it. And then for 30 seconds, just hold this down. And once we had it pressed down for 30 seconds, we can go ahead and glue it down a little bit more. Because the last thing we want is for this to snap off of our rocket. Okay, so once that's good, go ahead and feed the piston end of that elastic shock cord through your tube, and then be ready to insert your engine mount into your rocket. Now you want to quickly yet efficiently apply some super glue to both rims of your engine mount rings. More so to the one that's going to be inserted first, because that one you won't be able to glue down anymore once it's inserted. So put a sufficient amount around the entire rim of that first ring, and then quickly just dab some dots on the second ring, because we can glue that one even better here after we've inserted it. Now, this is a painstaking moment because you need to get this in here quickly before it dries, or you're going to be screwed, okay? Quite frankly. So get it in there, and you should have that second ring there just barely inside of your engine tube. And then once it's in, go ahead and clamp it down with your fists so that first ring is touching the rocket tube all the way around for 30 seconds. Hold that, and then you should be good. And yeah, as you can see, it's already secured in there, but we want to secure it even more. So we're going to take our super glue and glue that second ring all the way around. Then I'm not even going to let it dry. I'm just going to go right to my hot glue gun, and I'm going to do my thing. All right, and there you have it. All right, our rocket engine can come right out. Our engine mount is in there nice and secure. Our elastic shock cord is hanging out the other end. We are finished with our engine mount. All right, and I will see you in the next video for step 3.